Hey everyone, this is Kristen.
I'm Savannah Hines.
Hi, I'm Heather.
And I'm Griff.
Throughout this program, we've been exploring the implications of learning theory, backwards design, teacher stance, and assessment on how we plan transformative and vigorous lessons for the diverse needs of our students. By utilizing our shared musical, linguistic, and visual spatial intelligences, we aim to further investigate these foundational methods of pedagogy and how we can integrate these strategies into our relationship-driven classrooms. Teachers are designers. We aim to design education, curriculum, units, lessons, and assessments that will appropriately guide our students towards successful understanding and transfer of knowledge across disciplines and into their own lives. To do this effectively, we must consider designing our lessons and assessments with the end product in mind. Backwards design is a pedagogical strategy that focuses on the unit or lesson's ultimate goals when choosing instructional methods and forms of assessment. As a planning tool, it can help our students achieve meaningful understanding by providing a framework to help educators identify teaching and learning priorities and guide our design of curriculum and assessments towards those goals. By doing this, we can avoid what Wiggins and McTighe call the twin sins of traditional design, or activity-oriented design, where hands-on overcomes minds-on experiences, and coverage-focused design, which concentrates only on factual material through textbooks and lecture notes. The 3 stages of backwards design are: 1. Identify desired results, or asking the questions, what should students know, understand, and be able to do? Wiggins and McTighe emphasize that in this stage, we consider our goals, examine established content standards, and review curriculum expectations. Number 2, determine acceptable evidence, or think like an assessor to determine what collected assessment evidence is needed to document and validate that the desired learning has been achieved. And finally, 3, plan learning experiences and instruction that will be most appropriate in equipping students with the knowledge and skills they will need to perform effectively and achieve the desired results. By providing the ultimate learning and performance goals to the students at the beginning of a unit or lesson, they can have a better idea of where they're going and can self-evaluate accordingly. We can incorporate language development and acquisition into the learning by making our desired results reflect these skills. Flexible assessment formats are just one of the many ways educators can focus on and differentiate for the development of language skills.
There are 2 types of assessments to support our students' learning: formative and summative. A formative assessment is the formal and informal processes teachers and students use to gather evidence to inform the next steps in learning. This helps adjust teaching and learning as needed. And a summative assessment provides evidence of student achievement for the purpose of making a judgment about student competence and program effectiveness. This helps determine how much students have learned at a particular point in time. However, teachers should note the potential formative uses of summative assessments. While they may be intended to show student competency, summative assessments can also be used to determine what to do next. Jan Chappuis's book, 7 Strategies of Assessment for Learning, gives us just that: strategies that can help us formatively determine what the next steps for learning should be. One strategy listed is to provide a clear and understandable vision of the learning target. This means giving students an idea of their learning destination. This would be when we as teachers write learning objectives or goals on the board at the start of a lesson, or before the students begin an activity. The second strategy Chappuis gives us is to use models of strong and weak work, so we can begin to teach our students what is and isn't quality, so they can evaluate their own work and the work of others. Chappuis also stresses not to hide the development and revisions of the models so that students will understand the process and know how to work through rough patches. The third strategy is to offer regular and descriptive feedback during the learning. Effective feedback has 5 characteristics. The first is to direct attention to the intended learning and offer specific information to guide improvement. Next, effective feedback must occur during the learning so the students still have time to act on it. Feedback must also address partial understanding so students don't continue with misunderstandings. We must also not do the thinking for students. Effective feedback guides students to improvement on their own thoughts. And effective feedback limits the information to important and realistic advice that the students can act on during the lesson. Further strategies will be discussed in later chapters of Chappui's book.
Funds of knowledge is one teaching strategy that can be incorporated into lessons across curriculum. Funds of knowledge can be boiled down to the idea that all students, including students of poverty, students new to English, and students whose parents have grade school educations, are filled with knowledge derived from their life experiences. This can be integrated into lesson plans in a variety of ways for both native English speakers as well as English language learners. One method that would work for both English speakers as well as English language learners would be having students draw connections to lessons by interviewing their families about topics discussed in class and presenting them either orally or visually, depending on where they are in the language acquisition process. How are students encouraged to activate funds of knowledge and strive to succeed in the classroom? The strategy of academic press in lesson planning and classroom management is one way of encouraging students to do challenging work while keeping them engaged. Academic press requires students to analyze data, interpret facts, apply the information to a new situation, predict what will happen in the future, evaluate the probability that their prediction might happen, and create possible solutions to the problem. This type of work gives much needed purpose and real-world connection to the learning, which will require a level of accountability that will ultimately encourage student growth. One of the most important aspects of academic press is the focus on critical thinking, which will transcend any language and cultural barrier as an exponentially important life skill.
Albert Einstein was credited with the phrase that education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. In this class, we're talking all about how to get our students actually thinking and not doing the thinking for them so that they then in turn can learn. These three learning theories, behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructivism, are ways in which we can do that. So behaviorism was founded by thinkers like Ivan Pavlov, B.F. Skinner, or Albert Bandura, who believed that learning is the presence of a new or changed behavior as a result of a stimulus. In terms of education, teachers would condition their learners by punishing or rewarding to reinforce behavior and foster repetition of knowledge. This is best suited for things that like flashcards or independent practice games where you can have a behavior and then immediately have a consequence. Reinforceable interactions with the teacher are like that, like teacher drills. And personally, I think this might be a good theory to use with ELL students who are working on vocabulary acquisition. So the second is cognitivism, and in this idea, learning uses brain processes to transfer knowledge from short to long-term memory. New information must be linked to prior knowledge, and information or concepts must be logically organized. So in this, the learner's brain must process, store, locate, and produce responses to the information, thereby creating new or evolving existing schema. Whereas the teachers are not drilling students, they must be attention getters, organizing, connecting, and repeating information to enable that student to learn. So in this, cognitivism is best suited for supplemental information, like organized charts or diagrams, study guides, lab exercises, discussions about a book, or something in which the student can activate prior knowledge and link the new knowledge to that in order to learn. And this last learning theory is constructivism. And we're learning a lot about that with Vygotsky, Piaget, John Dewey, or Jerome Bruner. Cognitivists believe that learning happens when information is moved into long-term memory while learners are building their own knowledge based on past experience. So it's very similar to cognitivism, but constructivism is a little bit more in depth with that. And this is best suited for eliciting creative output or projects, something like that. So in constructivism, teachers act as models, guides, and facilitators of the learning process, usually letting the students discover insight amongst peers or in group activities. Vygotsky is a huge proponent of the social aspect of learning. And What I think is that constructive teaching allows educators to customize relevant connections to a student's prior knowledge, and I think it's going to be a great method for differentiation between your students.